All right, guys, what is going on? And welcome back to the Tipped Out Podcast with your hosts, Brandon Palmer and Danny Christy. So today's guest is going to be someone very special, Rick Stewart, PGA teaching professional, world-class guy and teacher out of Metro West. An absolute incredible story from him, from California to Brazil, Singapore, golf on the tour, the Asian tour, all around just a great guy. He's a pleasure to have on. So we hope you guys really enjoy it. Talking about all things fitness, golf, instruction, mental game, God, everything is in there. So, Danny, anything to add about our boy Rick?
We really enjoyed having him. Excellent conversation, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we did.
Perfect. Let's get right into it. All right, guys, what is going on, and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, we have a very special guest from Metro West. We have Rick Stewart here. How's it going, Rick?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So we are just here with Rick today. We're going to talk a little bit about, we'll go in first and let you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, as Brandon said, I'm Rick Stewart, PGA member. I went to the New Mexico State University. So graduated from them back in 2007, believe it or not. So I'm actually older than I look. I know you guys are thinking, man, this guy looks so young, but yeah, I graduated in 07. And then upon graduating, I moved back to California, where I'm originally from, was a head pro at a golf course there. And then during that time, you're still young, you still want to play, because I play on the golf team at New Mexico State. So I, after a year back home, I moved over to Singapore, and I worked briefly for the first tee, and then played on the Asian tour after that for about a year and a half. And found out the hard way that tour life is hard, and but that's good. It was a great experience for me. And so after Singapore, went back to school in Australia. So I did 3 years of graduate school in Sydney, Australia. And while I was doing school there, I was working at the Australian Golf Club in the golf operations department. So I still kind of had my foot in the door within golf. And then upon graduating in Australia, moved back to Singapore, had a little stint as a project manager out of golf. And then that time really showed me that I wanted to be back in golf. So I moved back stateside, and in stateside, I moved back to the Washington, D.C. area, where I was a director of instruction there at a golf course, and then moved to Dallas, Texas, where I became a director of instruction for Topgolf, and I was with Topgolf for 5.5 years. And after 2.5 years in Dallas, they moved me to Orlando to open up the Orlando location. So it was a great time, man, with Topgolf. I helped develop their instructional program, and we kicked ass, took names, and then the pandemic hit. Totally screwed a lot of people up. It kind of changed everything at Topgolf, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise. And ended up going to Metro West and opening up my academy there, and that's what I've been doing since then. So, kind of brief intro.
Holy eventful! That is so cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome ride.
That's some bucket list.
It's been wild,
places.
man. It's been wild.
Right there, yeah. What part of California are you originally from?
So I grew up in the Bay Area. So I grew up in San Jose, California for 10 years, and then Santa Rosa. So Bay Area. So any Giants and 49ers fans out there?
Oh yeah, big
boy,
Niners.
Oh, Warriors too. So I'm not bandwagon. I've been a Warriors fan since like the early 90s, maybe before you guys were born. But they sucked back then, and now they're really good. So I paid my dues.
You big sports.
We were with them in the dark days,
bro. There were some dark days, man. Dark days. So
that's a really good segue into our next question here. Is how did you enjoy your time at the first tee of Singapore? I've heard a lot about the first tee, but I haven't had the opportunity to actually talk with someone who's worked there or experienced it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity, and just to kind of give some context and background, it's not like I just jumped on a plane and moved to Singapore. My mom is from Indonesia, and my dad is American, and he grew up in Singapore. So I had a lot of connections and traveling in Singapore when I was a kid. A lot, had family there. So it was kind of fell into my lap, the job, and I enjoyed it. I really did. You know, I was the program coordinator and also the head golf professional, director of golf for the first tee of Singapore. So it was great, you know, introducing a lot of kids to golf. And it's, you know, not many people know that Singapore, it's an island country. So there's 5 million people on an island, so to speak. So golf and golf courses are far and few between. So it's really cool. It was really cool to kind of expose people to the game of golf at this little 9-hole golf course that the first tee of Singapore was based out of. So, but it was a great time. I mean, I worked for them for about 6 months, and then the itch to play, I was like, man, because I was still 23, 24 when I had that opportunity, and I was like, man, I got to go play, you know. So, yeah, it was a great time with the first tee Singapore, and then it kind of jump started me on the Asian tour. So
That's so cool. I know Danny and I talk about that a lot. Like, we're right at that age now, 23, 24, and we're like you got it. You know, you don't want there to be what ifs in the future. Or I could have done this, could
yeah,
have done that. So like, sometimes you just got to take a shot. Are you really happy that you tried to go through? And even though, like you said, tour golf is such a different caliber, and also just the travel and the stress on your body,
yeah.
it's a totally different beast. But I'm sure that you are happy that you tried your luck out there and made your game better for it, made you a better instructor for it, and just got to see some cool stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I would not change a thing. You know, if you guys, you know, if people are listening, you know, they're out of college, you know, early to mid 20s, got to go for it. You know, you don't
Yeah.
want to live what ifs. You know, I was 23, 24. So probably around you all's age. And, you know, it made me and it shaped me a lot. You know, I had some growing pains, but, you know, learned more about myself, learned more about my golf game,
Mhm.
showed me really also, I think more importantly, what I wanted in life. And I think a lot of people, they get it twisted and they see like, oh, tour pro life, it's all glitz and glamour. You know, we're flying net jets. You know,
Mhm.
I got courtesy cars picking me up, Mercedes. You know, and that's like maybe 1% of the tour pros out there. You
Yeah.
know, but they don't see the people kind of eking it out like on the Canadian tour, Corn Ferry tour, you know, the
Mhm.
Asian tour, the maybe even the European tour too, you know.
Mhm.
So, but again, like if you got the game and you're still young, go for it, man. Scratch that itch.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to add,
Um,
Danny? Yeah.
this could be a dumb question, but do you speak a second language then if you were um,
Yeah.
instructing there or no?
Well, so my first language was Indonesian because I was
Mm.
born in Jakarta, and we moved to the U.S. when I was 4.5. So that was my first language, and you know, when you're so young, you know, when I was 4.5 when I moved to California, so I lost all my Indonesian. But kind of through traveling, repicked it back up. But Singapore, the national language is actually English because it was a British colony.
Oh, wow.
But there's a lot of Malaysian people there, and they speak Bahasa, which is same thing as Indonesian. So yeah, long story short, Danny, yes, I do speak Indonesian, and then my wife is from Brazil, so I'm learning Portuguese. So my Portuguese is it's pretty good. I just had a Portuguese class this afternoon, so I take
Oh,
Portuguese classes once a week, and
cool.
yeah, I'm
That's
getting there.
awesome. What course do you know well, or what course maybe have you played the most
Yeah,
in Singapore? Because I have 3 or 4 students at the academy that are from Indonesia, so
yeah.
I'd love to tell them what course and see if they know it.
So Singapore, so the courses there are really private courses.
Hmm.
So you know, a couple clubs that I know and I've played a lot would be Singapore Island Country Club,
Okay.
and also there's another one where they have the Singapore Open, which is called Sentosa.
Fantastic. Okay.
So those are two really cool golf courses. But it's different from the States. You know, the States, it's kind of like, you know, I spent a lot of time in Brazil as well. You know, golf in South America and golf, say, in Asia as well, is still very much a kind of like an upper echelon sport. So more elitist, if you will. So all the golf courses are more private golf courses. So not as much access, which I
Yeah.
hope things change. You know, I think we here in the States, we have a great model. You know, we have the different various options for golf.
Yeah. And do you think that we're just kind of ahead of that curve here in the States, or is it something that they want to kind of keep, like you said, as a elitist kind of higher class sport? Is it? 'Cause, I mean, of course that's how it was here, and then
Sure.
it changed
Yeah.
over time.
I think it's twofold, to be honest. Like in Singapore, for example, it's such a landlocked country. You don't have much space.
Mm,
Whereas the United States, I mean, we have what, 50 states, from
mm,
coast to coast, it's what, 3,000, 4,000 miles. So
yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons. And I think secondly too, yeah, I think they're not quite where we are in regards to like growing the game,
mm,
the future of golf, where
yeah,
I think we do a great job. The States does. All of my travels and living abroad, you know, the U.S. I mean, we have a lot going in our favor.
mm,
In regards to in golf and specifics, to what we're talking about.
yeah, definitely.
Um, so you said you ended up after your time in Singapore and on the Asian tour, you wound up in Australia, correct?
Yeah. So I so I moved from Singapore after my amazing performance on the Asian tour. So I moved to Sydney, Australia, and I went to actually I did biblical studies. So I did Bible college for three
Oh, no.
years, and I got my degree in pastoral studies from a school there. So long story short, it's not just like, oh, I moved to Australia just like that. Hey, I
Mm,
had a buddy in Sydney that was going to that school, and I went to visit him while I was in Singapore, and I saw the school, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Like, and this is something that I've always wanted to do. Kind of, you know, study, my Christian faith a little bit
yeah,
more. But long story short, yeah, I ended up in Sydney for 3 years, and that was a really cool
yeah,
time. Played a lot of good golf courses there too, man. Like the Australian Golf Club. I played Royal Sydney. I played New South Wales Golf Club, which they have all those three golf courses that I mentioned. They've all hosted the Australian Open at one point in
mhm,
time. And when I was working at the Australian Golf Club, one of those years they played the Australian Open there, and that's the year that Jordan Spieth won. So that was cool. I got
mm,
to see Jordan Spieth. Got to see a lot of great players, Adam Scott. So that
mhm.
was a really cool experience.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I would love to go to Australia. That's definitely one of my bucket places. It just looks
It's
cool,
awesome,
and
man. It's a great
I've never
country.
thought about the golf, so now that's another reason to go. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
How big are kangaroos? That's my big question.
Bro, it's funny, man, because it's like here in the States, maybe not so much Florida, well, maybe
Mm,
Florida, but we have deer, right? And you
Hmm.
go over
mm,
there, they have kangaroo, and it's not a big deal for them,
that's true.
but the kangaroos can get pretty big. They can get,
Yeah.
probably the size, if not bigger than a big deer,
Holy cow! Yeah.
so you don't want to mess with them, man. Don't piss
Yeah.
them off.
Yeah. I've seen Kangaroo Jack, man. I know they don't like hot balls. That's what,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, don't mess with them.
Yeah. So, what have you found that you like more? Of course, you still play. I was just mentioning to Danny before you came on that your recent W with John Montgomery there. You guys won that
Yeah.
tournament. Um, so, of course, we all, even as instructors, we love to play. But do you get more joy out of playing or out of giving a good lesson? I know some players and
Yeah.
teachers and coaches now, like some coaches may not like to play as much or practice or anything, but of course,
Yeah.
still being young, we're really fiery for the game, and we love both instruction and playing. I didn't know if you had a favorite or if you're pretty well balanced in it.
That's a great question, Brandon. Like, you know, I preface the answer with like, being a PGA pro, PGA of America pro. I never want to become, and John and I have had this discussion before. I never want to become, or never want to be that professional that will tell people what to do, but I
Mm,
themselves can't do it. Meaning, like, to be a good player, you got to hit this shot where I've never hit that shot before.
mm,
So with that being said, I think now I have a healthy balance of playing with teaching. I still love the game, man. Like,
yeah,
why did I get into this business in the first place? I'd be
mm,
lying to say like, oh, I hate it and I just like teaching. No,
mm,
I love playing. I love competition. I want to feel the butterflies in my stomach playing. In the section that I'm in with North Florida PGA, the East Central chapter, we got a lot of ballers, man. We got great players, ex PGA Tour players, ex Web.com, Corn Ferry. So I got to step my game up too when I'm playing in these tournaments. But I think my experience on the Asian tour, really showed me a good work-life balance now. So I do love teaching. I have good players, beginners, everything in between. And I love to see when they hit a great golf shot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think as an instructor, you guys would probably agree with me. Like when a 10-year-old junior like stripes a drive for the first time, it's like, yeah, come on, man. Or the 12-year-old that's a stud wins his first tournament. Dude, it's like I won with him, you know?
Big.
But yeah, I never want to let my game go. I don't. So, yeah, I think that's encouragement for some pros and teaching pros out there. It's like, man, tee it up, feel the butterflies, feel what it feels like to play in a tournament. Because if you're dealing with people playing in tournaments and you've never felt that before, then it doesn't mean anything for you to say that.
So as a pro,
I couldn't relate to kind of what you just touched on there more. And I never want to be the guy that I feel like there's a lot of pros out there that'll, I never get to play anymore, and my game is, I'm not any good anymore. I don't want to be the guy that's my excuse for why I stink. I want to be able to play still, and so
you can always make time for it, man.
How many times a week do you get to practice? Like, are you able to practice more or play more? Like, I find myself when we go for on-course instruction, I'm always hitting chips, putts.
Right.
You got to showcase the drills, and then after work, I don't have a wife, a family yet. This is my full-time job. So like after work, it's a little content, it's a little practice. How do you kind of balance work-life balance, but also as much as you teach, do you find time to play or practice? And what is that kind of schedule looking like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think just like anything I was mentioning to Danny, just at the end there, you make time for it. It's like people go to the gym, you make time for it. It's like, I'm fat and overweight. Well, make time for it. There's no excuses, man. It's no excuses. So I think to answer your question, Brandon, is like, sometimes I'll have a little gap. We'll have 2 hours. Maybe I'll have an hour for lunch and I'll practice for an hour. Or in between lessons, I'll hit balls or chip and putt. I do a lot of playing lessons, so I'm hitting golf shots as well. But it's interesting now, like being older and understanding the golf swing more, I practice less now, if that makes sense, because I'm in tune with my swing, in tune with my body. I work out 3 days a week. Like my buddy's got a sports performance gym and he's got me on a plan, golf specific, which helps a lot. So like my body, I'm 37 years young, which you're like, wow, 37, he doesn't look that, I know. So it's just
baby-faced assassins, baby. That's us.
That's right, man. That's right. But no, I feel better now at my age than I did in college. And so with that being said, it's kind of like a combination of all those things I mentioned where, I'm in better shape, know my swing, know the swing, know course management now. So I don't have to practice like 4 hours a day and grind it out. Maybe like a little 30-minute chip and putt sesh or a little wedge session where I kind of feel something in my swing and get that, have that little feel for my tournament in the next couple of days. So yeah, it's a combination, but at the end of the day, you got to make time for it. And sometimes you got to force yourself and maybe schedule a little half an hour extra break to get that done.
That's huge though, man. That going in, like you said, and that more isn't always better. Like we try and tell our students that sometimes, and we had a case of that today. We worked putting and chipping for like 2 hours in the hot sun, and now we go back and we're on the range, and one of our students was hitting perfect shots, and he's almost hitting to the point where he's giving himself an issue. Like he's looking for an issue so much because he's hitting so many balls. I'm like, dude, let's just work through the bag a little bit, and then we'll be done for the day. Some days you are allowed to finish in a happy mood and on a good note. Like, you don't have to hit until you lay in bed at night and ponder our swing. So that's a huge tip, not only for us teachers, but for any golfer. It's more is not always better. Sometimes you do need to dig it out of the dirt, like Ben Hogan said, but other times I think, we have technology on our side. We have an abundance of information
Right.
And that's kind of my next little question here is, do you ever kind of get, or did you ever, maybe when
Mhm.
you're around our age, with all of this information, do you ever get kind of overwhelmed or start to maybe overanalyze some things just with how much information is out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love how you say when I was your age. It's so long ago.
Uh-huh.
How old are you guys, by the way? Brandon, you're 23,
22.
22, and then Danny,
22 as well.
Yeah.
22. Man, that's so cool, man. You guys are awesome. So that was like 15 years ago for me, and
Mhm.
it's crazy to think that wasn't that long ago, but
Mhm.
it's long ago in regards to the evolution of golf. Because I think about when I was in college, or 22. 22 was my senior year in college, and
Mhm.
launch monitors was a thing, but it was just like becoming a thing, and it wasn't accessible to the general public.
Mhm.
So but now you fast forward to today, like everybody's got like a 𝐕𝐲𝐽𝐻 𝐚𝐲 or a Rapsodo, and they got all these numbers, and all this information is just at the palm of your hands, on your cell phone. And that's a great thing, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think, to what you're saying, Brandon, you can overanalyze things where sometimes you just have to feel it, you know?
Mhm.
And I think we have to be careful because, as we get more technological, um, you lose the art of feel. You lose the art of, like, as you said, I love that quote, dig it in the dirt, or dig it
Yeah.
out of the dirt, like Ben Hogan
Mhm.
said. You just got to
Mhm.
feel like, so sometimes, with my students, to what you're saying, you had that kid who was just beating balls, trying to
Yeah.
find something. I'll tell my students straight up. I'll be like, "You're done for the day." But they're
Yeah.
like, "No, no, we didn't figure it out." I'm like, "You're fine. You
Mhm.
know, it's golf. I've been playing this game long enough to know that you will have a bad practice session, but there's nothing wrong with your swing. I
Yeah.
mean, you could be this far off. What is that, like less than a centimeter? And that's going
Yeah.
to mess up your shot, but there's nothing fundamentally wrong with your swing.
Mm.
So I'll tell them, "Hey, you're done, go play." Or I'll say, "Let's just hit some wedges."
Yeah.
It's no use in trying to beat 50 drivers, and your club face is maybe a degree open, or I don't know, half a degree close.
Yeah.
That's good to know, but if we're looking at your swing and if the lines look great, the degrees look great, then you're fine. You're
Yeah.
fine. So I think for this generation coming up, which has everything at the palm of the hands, which is great. They you got to be careful though not to lose the art of feel. So I feel like for me, like being in my, I guess, mid 30s, like I have one foot in and one foot in the old and one foot in the new, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So I've
Yeah.
seen the evolution,
Mm.
which has been a great evolution. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
we do need to feel. We need to feel that. So
100%. Just
Yeah,
getting back to the art. Go ahead, Dan.
I just I really like what you said. I couldn't agree more. I feel like you almost have to have one foot in and one foot in another direction. I feel like
yeah.
my game, speaking from personal experience, got a lot better because I remember when I was younger, like 13, 14, 15, I was almost in that analysis or paralysis by analysis phase
Hmm.
where I was overanalyzing, overthinking. So I feel like for me, when I took a step back and went to a more feel oriented side of things, it helped me a ton. So that's one thing I've always tried to help people that I help is, okay,
Yeah.
well, we might not need to be so far into getting things perfect at setup, thinking about this in our takeaway and all, and that, yeah. So
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
big thing too,
For
right,
real.
is like golf is not played. You can't win or lose a golf tournament on the range. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
something we forget a lot of times. It's like the art of playing the game, and this is kind of me just thinking out loud in a way. Like Danny and I have been talking a lot about me doing my TrackMan numbers and trying to get a real good understanding of my totals and my carries and
Hmm.
win differences and all that stuff. Like when I'm on the course, of course that stuff matters. You need to know those numbers. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's me feeling that wind and choosing what club feels right and going back to past knowledge, other tournaments, other rounds,
Yep.
um,
Hmm.
and really trying to feel that. Like the art of playing the game is just getting the ball in the hole. One of
Hmm.
Danny's quotes is, there's no diagrams on the scorecard. Like at the end of the day, you just got to get the ball in the hole as efficient as possible. It may not look pretty some days, and I think that's really what, at least I see a lot of these junior players, is they rather have a pretty swing than a good game, and that's kind of what
Yeah.
I feel like you got to get away from, or at least snap out of sometimes, because we can get in that overanalyzation and my club's here and here. And well, it doesn't matter if it's here or here. Are you hitting your target? Are you keeping it in play? You know, then
Yeah.
that's where the short game comes in, and the mental aspect. That's another thing. Do you kind of do you teach mental game as well? Does that kind of just go hand in hand with your instruction, or is there times with some of your more like elite players that you dive deeper into that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily per se like, okay, this is going to be a mental game
Mm-hmm.
lesson. No, but I think it just kind of it flows out naturally during the course of a lesson or during the course of a playing lesson where we talk about, pre-shot routine. Okay, what are you visualizing? What's your mental state right now? What are you thinking? How's your heart rate? All that stuff.
Yeah.
And I take that from my playing experiences. So I think it just is kind of a natural outflow. But to what you're saying, yeah, I agree 100%. Where the art of playing golf, I think back, some of my best rounds have come from crappy practice sessions. I'm just like skanking on the range. I'm like, good Lord, what is that? But I have no expectations, and I'm just going to feel it and let's go. And kind of maybe it's ugly the first couple of holes, but then you get up and down, and then something clicks. So just trying to tell my students that it's not going to be perfect every time, but getting in the hole. And there is something about, I don't want to say ugly golf. That's not, well, yeah, I would say maybe ugly. I mean, there's no diagram, there's no pictures on a scorecard, man. Get the ball in the hole. So I think about again, to what you're saying, like this up and coming generation where technology and their swings are all pretty. But at the end of the day, man, it's between your ears and the fortitude. So, do you have the mental toughness? Can you handle the pressure? Can you hit that shot? That's what it comes down to. Not about how pretty your swing,
Yeah. And I think that's where social media is kind of maybe put a hurt on it sometimes. Like whether it's filming a lesson or a drill for people and worrying about what they're going to say, or to your coach, or just posting it just to show, like, just a post, and then you have people tear apart your swing, and it's like, no wonder these kids need it to look perfect, or like that they have these things. And so who knows, but we didn't always have a range in golf. It blows my mind. I can't remember the year, but learning more about when like a golf range actually was created. And old pros used to just bring a couple of balls into the fairway and hit and then go get it, and that was like their warm up. They used to warm up, not necessarily practice. Like their practice came from the course. And I think, long story short, or a whirlwind of thought, I think that's kind of where a lot of it has to come back to. Of course, you can't fully fix a swing on the course, or it's very hard to. So that's where the range is perfect. But yeah, definitely on course instruction. And you said you do a good amount of on course, right?
Yeah, I do. Like tomorrow, I'll have a 9-hole playing lesson with one of my really good junior players, which and even for me when I teach, like if it's an hour lesson with a student, and we have maybe say 20 minutes left, and I'll say, hey, let's go play a hole. Let's go play a hole, because that's what it's all about out there. You're not playing golf swing, you're playing golf. And so I try to get my students out there sooner rather than later. I'm not trying to be an instructor that is, okay, you got to get locked in on a 25 lesson package, and we're just going to be doing one thing for 10 lessons and one thing for the other 10. No, I want them to get out there, because that's what it's all about. You got to play, grow the game too. I know the PGA of America, PGA golf, we're growing the game, so at the end of the day, man, that's what it's all about. Go play some golf, Yeah.
That's huge. Danny, anything else to add on that?
I just wanted to mention, and I know you've heard this one, Palmer, because I was kind of harping on it when we were in Florida, but one of my favorite quotes that what we just spoke about is a Mike Adams quote where he's talking about junior golfers mainly, and he says one of the biggest problems he sees is a lot of people go out there thinking they have to hit it perfect to feel worthy to shoot a good score, instead of just being able to score with what you have and adapt to that.
Yeah, one of the best books I ever read. I remember my dad gave it to me when I was in high school, I think after I played crappy. And it was Dr. Bob Rotella's book, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect.
Hey, it's on the shelf.
So it looks like It's a great book, man. It's just to what we're talking about. Like, you don't have to hit every shot perfect. You don't. We look at Scotty Scheffler, the last round of the Masters. He was hacking it up the first three holes, and I think he still was even par, one under. He chipped in on three.
Yeah.
Your short game is going to bail you out. It's at the end of the day, it's chipping and putting. That's what it is. Everybody can have a pretty swing, but can you get the ball in the hole, chipping and putting? So that's what I stress even with beginners. Like, we'll do a lesson, just the fundamentals of the swing, but then when they kind of get the hang of it, then I'll say, okay, now we're going to go from 25 yards, 50 yards. It's almost kind of like the Earl Woods approach with Tiger. We're going to learn backwards.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Operation 36 does now. Like, if you can't get the ball in the hole from 25 yards and down in 4,
yeah.
Who thinks you're gonna get down in 4 from 350 yards?
Yeah.
You crazy? So I think that methodology and that method works. So it's how I kind of go about it. With my students. So.
Are you do you have, or do you kind of gravitate towards a philosophy or a method, or are you pretty individualistic, kind of whatever the player brings you, you can shape off that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do I have a method? I wouldn't say I have a method. I'm not necessarily like one swing fits all. I think like Mike Bender is like one swing fits all. Hey, to each their own. That's not my thing. I think there are some non-negotiable positions in the golf swing, but how they get there, we for example, we look at like Jim Furyk. We look at people that have funky swings, but then you look at their impact position, it's like, it's cash money. Like, I want that impact position. So I think, in a roundabout way to answer your question, I don't necessarily have a methodology. I believe the golf swing is an athletic motion. I believe that obviously golf is a sport. You're using your whole body. But if someone is, say, a little bit more overweight compared to someone who's a little bit skinnier and more flexible, okay, I know that they're not going to be able to make a certain amount of turn compared to that more athletic person. We can work around that. We can get you in a good impact position. Because at the end of the day, for that person, I want them to enjoy the game. They know, I know, that they're not going to be a tour pro, but I want them to enjoy the game. So, like, for example, great example, this past Saturday, I had a new lady student, very nice lady. She was a little bit overweight, and she was taking group lessons, and she wanted more private instruction. Long story short, we got her hitting the ball up in the air just because her club face was in a very close position. So she was very inside, close, and her wrist was working like this way rather than working up and down. So I just told her, hey, do this, get the club face on the way back, neutral to your spine, and then use your wrist properly. And she was hitting the ball up in the air. Did it look tour pro caliber? Not necessarily, but I mean, she was on plane and she made it work. So I think, that's a great example of, I catered to that lady. Where I have another student, David, who's a 7-year-old, just stud junior. He wins every tournament. He's a lefty. He is flexible as heck, man. He's got this big shoulder turn, tour quality swing. So I teach him a little bit different because he's able to make certain moves that other people can't. So, again, but to each their own. Golf is such a individualistic game, and teaching it, there's some, I'm not going to name names, but like some people that teach, I'm like, what? Seriously? What? Okay. But what do I know?
I really like how you said that. The few non-negotiables of the swing. I couldn't agree more. Like, how they get there, it's their own way. It might be homegrown, it might be habit. I've found that working with juniors, we try and get them as simply on plane and correct as possible because we have the ability to shape them when they're young. But like you said, when a guy or a lady comes to you and they've been doing the wrong thing for years and it really is just too tough to change, like, you cater to what they're looking for. If they're just looking to go out every now and then and play with the ladies or the men, then so be it. You'll make them optimize for those positions.
For
I think
sure.
that's crucial, man. The other. Go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. I think a great, a great person to look at would be like Dustin Johnson, for example. As his kid, I'm sure he was really bowed, and he's very flexible. but you look at his impact position, and it's like, wow. I mean, his hips are cleared. His guy's spine angle. I mean, he is rotating like heck, and that's awesome. You know, and so I wouldn't change that necessarily if he was hitting the ball like that at such a young age. But it just comes to mind. Like I posted something on Instagram probably about a couple months ago, where I talked about the position of the swing at the top. You know, so I put like cupped, bowed, and neutral. So cupped, I said no. Bowed, no. I said yes, this is correct. And man, some of the comments that I got freaking crucified, man. Like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yo, guys, like this is just a general, I guess, statement, if you will, for where the club should be for the average golfer, right? Like people were saying, oh, Dustin, so say that to Dustin Johnson, say that to Zach Johnson, you know? And I'm like, yes, they can make that, but they are athletes. They are athletes, you know? So again, to what we were talking about earlier, everybody's a little bit different. You cater to that person. So
yeah, that is.
I think that's funny. That's just the hardest part sometimes when, and Palmer and I have talked about this, when we want to post something and then you're like, oh, people could say this, people could say that, but it doesn't matter. I mean, anything somebody posts can be broken down into whatever, like you said. So I just think that's really, really cool. And, you know,
you're not going to please everyone, man. You're not going to please everyone.
To appeal to the masses, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think like, I don't know. I mean, I have a pretty decent swing, right? And like I post some things and people are like, oh, I'm like, hey, that's your opinion, man. God bless you, right?
For sure. That's
So,
all we can do, you
whatever.
know? And you've been killing it on Instagram. Do you work with any other social media platforms, or you mostly just pump to Instagram?
So yeah, I have a TikTok now, which is crazy for me to say that, TikTok, you know, but it's been great. You know, my wife encouraged me to do it, and I've actually been getting a lot of great feedback from TikTok. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram, Rick Stewart Golf. Not really on Facebook much nowadays, more just for personal use, which I'm barely on. But those are really the two social media platforms that I use. So not like you guys. You guys are all over, man. Going worldwide. Love it.
We try. But and you do online coaching as well, right?
Yeah. So I do online coaching through Skillest, which, you know, it's funny because 3-4 years ago, pre-pandemic, if you would ask me about online lessons, I'll be like, oh, you can't learn online for golf. You know, you got to get somebody there telling you and putting your hands on and do it. But now it's just like, that's the way everybody's learning now, you know, learning online, learning virtually. You know, I'm learning another language right now virtually with a teacher who's in Sao Paulo, Brazil, you know? So, but I think this is the way that teaching is going, and you can still be interactive. You can't necessarily physically put your hands on someone and move their body in a certain way. But I think for me, it has made me an even better communicator because I'm not physically there. So I have to describe things that is clear and concise. But yeah, online lessons, man. I have about 3 students now online. I've given a number of one-off lessons, but I have 3 subscribers, and it's cool to see that their progress, you know, in really a short amount of time. So, but I think that's where a lot of golf is headed, man. Online,
it really
digital.
is too. That's very cool that you said that you feel like you've learned to maybe articulate more or just communicate better, because I found that for myself as well. Like, it's not even necessarily what you say most of the time. It's kind of how you say it and what words we use to describe either the sensation or the position we're trying to get them in. And I mean, that's just a huge part of teaching anything, not only golf. So that's a big part for me as well, where I feel like the social media and or the online coaching has helped me more as an instructor. So it's really cool. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I don't think it's going to go away regardless of COVID going away or whatever. It's here to stay, and I think people are really going to, you know, utilize it more. And that's awesome.
For sure. And I think also just if you're putting content out there, you know, for social media, you know, like my boy John Montgomery, he's just killing the game on social media. And just the stuff that he puts out there is really encouraging for me, and he and I have had many good discussions. But it's like, keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it concise, you know, and then more one-on-one lessons, you can kind of break things down. So I think the easier that you can put the stuff out there, you know, the better. Because golf, as we know, is already hard as it is.
Mhm.
So, why bog someone down when you're talking about like D-plane and, I don't know, all this
Yeah.
stuff, you're 3 degrees shut
Mhm.
to the, we know that, we know what that means, but,
Yep.
Joe Blow from Sheboygan, he has no idea.
Yeah, for sure.
So this next question I have, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to go into a little more detail. And this is just based on, I read on your website just about like what you use for swing analysis and what technology you have.
Yeah.
So just how do you incorporate technology in your lessons? And are there any pieces of technology you would like to use in the future, like a swing catalyst or TrackMan, or I don't know if you've heard about the Sportsbox AI that's
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, good question. So what I currently use right now is I use V1 for my swing analysis, which is very easy to use. I love, they have all the tour pros there, and you can do the side-by-side comparison. And then for the numbers, I have a 𝐓𝐷Scope 𝐬𝐲, and that really gets the job done. I'm not necessarily teaching any tour pros yet. I've had a couple mini tour players in the back last year, but the 𝐓𝐷Scope kind of gets the job done for the players that I have right now. I have a lot of good junior players. I have some lower handicap players. Majority of who I teach right now, I'd probably say 70% would be that more mid handicap type player, which I think the 𝐓𝐷Scope 𝐬𝐲 does its job. So 𝐓𝐷Scope, if you're listening, good job. Maybe sponsorship, I don't know. But I think in the future, man, again, that price range for like around $500, that's awesome. I think I have to sell a couple kidneys to get a TrackMan, which in a perfect world, I would love to have a TrackMan. That'd be great. I know, again, my boy John has one in Celebration, which the golf course has provided, which is great. It's been great for him to have. And you can definitely get more in depth with that stuff. So I think in the future, I will probably invest in a TrackMan once I become famous.
Yeah. Yeah, after this podcast, right?
Yeah, the royalties off this podcast with y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
let's see. Danny, anything else off the top of your head right here?
I just we got this last one too. We haven't mentioned. What is the biggest lesson you have learned from your experiences in the golf industry?
Oh wow!
Wow, great question, man.
That's a deep
Biggest
one.
lesson? You say greatest lesson? Biggest lesson?
Biggest lesson, greatest, either or.
Yeah, great question, man. I think I might get teary-eyed talking about this. I think just being in golf in general, just the parallels to life, and golf is really the game of life. You're going to have some great holes, you're going to have some bad holes, but it really is a marathon. I think, we see a lot of great junior players now, and everybody's kind of a dime a dozen. And I think the greatest lesson, I think what I'm trying to say is don't find your identity in golf. You are not what your score says you are. Just because you shot 79 and missed the cut doesn't make you a piece of crap and that you're a terrible person. No. Be true to yourself. You are who you are. Golf is just something that you do, and be the same person if you shoot 61, if you shoot 81. I think that's the biggest lesson, man. I think a lot of people find their identity in the amount of strokes that they take on a golf course. And I think my time at the Asian Tour, my time playing professionally, even playing in tournaments nowadays in the local North Florida PGA, like I'm more at peace now at 37 than I was at 21. If I shoot a bad score, it's okay, man. Sun will set, sun will rise tomorrow. It's a new day. Let's go. So
that's awesome. Very well said, man.
I might just cut that and make a little segment of that. And when I go play in these PGA events I'm about to play in this spring, just if I have a bad day, I think I'm going to play that on the ride home.
That's awesome, man. Just like, yeah, you can go to sleep with rain falling, on your phone. Just my voice. You're not your score. You're more than that.
Serenade me.
So
that's awesome. We don't want to take too much of your time, Danny. I know we have we got a couple speed questions, right? Do you remember those?
Yep, we got our rapid
That's a
fire
great, man.
questions, and then
I'm enjoying
I think
this.
we'll be good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're having a blast, man. This has been great. Ready for so we got 3 questions here.
Good.
I don't know if you've ever seen Faraday, but that was kind of where they were inspired from, where he does
Yeah.
the speed questions.
Just
So
answer it
ready?
quickly.
What is one piece of advice you would give to someone that wants to improve their golf game?
Play more, practice. Play on the golf course more, practice on the range less.
Beautiful. What is your craziest golf story?
Craziest golf story? Golly. Playing golf comes to mind. Playing golf in São Paulo, Brazil. I put this on Instagram and TikTok, but the golf course is called Santa Pazienza, and the golf cart path was designed through the middle of a lake and a river. So you're driving through a lake and you think that you're going to sink, but that's the way it was designed. It was actually a golf course designed by Tom Fazio. It's crazy.
Really?
It's awesome, man. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's wild, yo.
It's awesome.
That sounds incredible. I'm gonna have to find that on your Instagram.
Yeah.
What is your favorite hobby outside of golf?
Favorite hobby outside of golf? Probably spending time with my beautiful wife, and I like to keep healthy, so I like working out.
Mhm.
So
That's awesome.
believe it or not, I wasn't born this way, so I got
Awesome.
That is perfect. That's all our questions, right, Dan?
That's what we got. It was an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed having you on, Rick.
Yeah, it's
Likewise,
been incredible.
guys.
So the last couple of minutes, or the last little piece here, we just like to see any projects you're working on, or we already had it. We'll put it up on screen again. But any social media or projects or anything you'd like to tell the viewers, listeners, or your students out there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So yeah, big project actually I'm working on with my dad. So I live in Claremont, Florida, and we purchased Sanctuary Ridge Golf Club. And so we did that back in August, and the golf course is closed, and we are renovating, not the golf course right now, just because of the climate of the economy. So we are redoing the driving range and the food offerings. So in fall, we'll be opening up the driving range. So I'm going to be moving my academy out there. And we renamed the golf course to Claremont National. Claremont National. So it's pretty cool, man. We got the original architect who designed the golf course back in 1999. His name is Terry Legree. He will eventually do the golf course, but he's doing the driving range and all the things, agricultural, all that stuff. So it's pretty boss. So ClaremontNational.com. You can check out updates on what's happening. But we are looking at our early fall opening. So it's going to be, yeah. It's like,
what a dream, yo. That is awesome.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, dude, I'm so stoked, man. Like it's been a dream come true, for me, for my family, for my dad as well. So my mom and dad live in California. He's got his own golf course management company. So he's got 4 golf courses there in the Bay Area. And then prior to that, he was a COO for Robert Trent Jones. So golf has kind of been in my blood, and it's been our, kind of dream to kind of do this, and it's coming to fruition. But yeah, Claremont National, check it out. Your boy gonna be up there doing his thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love to have you guys, man. Love to have you guys out there.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be lovely. It's totally caught me off guard when you ask someone what they've got going on. All of a sudden, oh yeah, I bought a golf course.
Yeah. Well, let me refresh. It was like my dad and a little bit of me. He's a little bit further on in life, but we got some great partners teaming up with us. Like his best friend, I call him Uncle John. He was an executive for Universal Studios for like 25 years. So he's kind of project managing this, and he's making, it look good. And, we got great food offerings. We teamed up with a couple of restaurateurs who've done really well in Central Florida. And yeah, man, it's going to be good. Unfortunately, we can't do the golf course right now, which I'm bummed, because the golf course it's very hilly. And I mean, you guys are in South Florida, right? So Florida's flat, but in Claremont, we got the rolling hills. So it's got a lot of beautiful views and whatnot. So that'll eventually come, once the economy kind of stabilizes and prices don't triple and quadruple. But yeah, other than that, that's what I got going on. Got some tournaments coming up. Got to plug my boy Barrett Stover at Revolution Sports Performance. He gets the body tight here in Orlando, or actually he's in Winter Garden. So you can follow him on social media, Revolution Sports Performance. So that's my shameless plug. If you're listening, Barrett.
Amazing.
That's incredible, man.
I'm actually looking in. I'd love to improve my knowledge in that aspect, so I might have to follow and reach out to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got an online training program too. It's called High T Golf Workout, or High T Golf Group. So High Testosterone Golf Group.
Oh, nice.
So he's awesome, man. He was a college baseball pitcher and did his bachelor's in kinesiology. Fun fact, he was a trainer down in Jupiter, and his roommate was Brooks Koepka. So he used to train Brooks, and so he's very knowledgeable about the golf swing and movement. So yeah, he's good.
What a small world. I feel like so many people are just so connected in like ways you would never know. Like that's just wow.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. He's like one of my best friends now, and he goes to the same church that I do. His wife is friends with my wife, so it's like, hey, man, small world.
Yeah,
so
it's so cool. That is awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure, Rick. We don't want to take any more of your time. We're definitely going to have to do this again, especially more updates on the course come. We'd love to be kind of in on that, see what's going on, and everything you guys are doing with that. So once again,
definitely.
Thank you so much for your time, the insight. I know we got a lot out of it. I know our viewers will too. So we really appreciate it, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys. I feel like we're connected, man. Just the first time we met, and we're like,
I know.
We're brothers.
It's good vibes all around, man. It really is.
I want to end on this. Just popped into my head with the. Yeah. I've really enjoyed as we started to have guests on. It's been super cool, and I really enjoy being able to walk away from each guest having learned something, and then it's really cool to feel kind of inspired and reinvigorated in what we're doing and what we're kind of striving to do. So it's really cool to talk to someone like you, where we can continue to kind of chase what we're after and what we love.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm ready to run to the wall, man. I'm fired up. I'm ready to work out or something.
Yeah, man. If Tom Brady can do it, I can. So let's go.
Yeah, there you go.
Contraband got that dope.
Sometimes I don't feel alright.